All right, good morning, Wasteland. This is the last weapon tier ranking video until we move on to movement parts. Yeah, stay tuned for that one. Like and subscribe, guys. Hit it. Hit it. Today we're going to talk about legendary and relic weapons. I've done videos on each. If you'd like to see my legendary buyer's guide, you can look it up on YouTube. Check it out. But this is a little different in that we're going to rank the quality of legendary and relic weapons from D, C, B, A, all the way up to uber good, S. And like you'd expect, we're going to have a lot more S tier weapons than we are garbage weapons because these are the end game weapons in Crossout. Let's jump to it. Let's hit up the D tier weapons. Our first D tier weapon is the Hurricane. Yeah, these are the missiles that you're constantly dodging by using your cloak. They're just not that great. If you want to play them for fun, go for it. But at 6 points of energy, they're just kind of a waste, and most people can accurately dodge these, especially at the power score you're going to be using them at. Now, sadly, the next and last D weapon in this category used to be one of my favorite weapons. It's just not that good anymore. Let's take a peek. Now, the Pulsar, which has no projectile drop, but sadly a slow speed, has this increased explosion radius at long range, but it's just got a huge hitbox. It's impossible to armor. Durability is okay. Sadly, there are just a lot better weapons for your choice of alpha damage. Cannons don't go with the Pulsar. Used to love it. Used to be really cool on hovers, but it's not. It's coming in at a D. Next up, C-rated weapons. The Toadfish. It's a double shot crossbow. If the first bolt hits, the second one has huge impulse. It's massively big, massive hitbox. Durability is only 384. The only way I got this thing to work was by under-mounting it. Otherwise, it just gets blown off or stripped off. And unless you have an amazing, ridiculous aim, super hard to use. There are easier and better weapons out there. I wanted to love this weapon so much because the shot shoots so fast and there's no drop. But between the charge mechanic and the overall DPS, big hitbox, and low durability, it's just not that great of a weapon. You got to do this hold and charge. If you don't shoot in the window, then it resets. It's a very finagly weapon to try and shoot. You're going to find better ones. The last weapon we're going to put in the C category, well, actually we got two more. The Annihilator Drone. This thing got hit with enough nerfs that just made it not that effective. And like many of the drones that we've covered in these tier videos, comes in the C or D category. It's going to slow someone down a little bit, but you'd be better off using a Spark, trust me. Our last D category weapon is the Needhog. This thing used to be a lot better. In fact, this whole line from junk bows, Fafnirs, and Needhogs used to be a lot better than they are now. Higher speed you are, the faster it reloads. The overall damage and range is just not great. Look at the range. You basically got to face hug someone, shoot them, and it's hard to strip with this thing. You can do it, but there's better weapons out there to choose. Let's move to the B category. First weapon in the B category is the Tsunami. Now, it used to be a solid A category until it got replaced by other weapons that do the job better. They've changed the mechanic on it a couple of times, nerfed it a handful of times. So every 2 seconds while staying still, you get a damage increase. So if you're running these, the start of a match, make sure you sit still for a little bit. Yes, it's still a very solid cannon. Great choice. There are just better legendary and relic weapons that you could use than the Tsunami. Our next B-rated weapon is the Drake. You can do some good area denial with these. They're okay. You're just not going to be getting tons of kills in these. You can front mount them if you want to make some weird, crazy contraption. But, yeah, I mean, it's really one of the only artillery weapons we have. So, hey, if you want to get it and try it, go for it. But still, solid B rating. The Cyclone. Now, this thing, the longer it fires, the higher its rate of fire. It takes forever to really get it spooled up. You need to start shooting almost before you're on target. And the DPS from this thing just isn't as good as I would like to see it. You really have to sit there shooting for a long time to really take out an enemy. And there are weapons that do that better. Comes in with 5 energy, and it's got a durability of only 535. But it has, once again, a massive hitbox, making it really hard to armor. Ah, the Fortune. Bouncy little tires of explodey death. At one time, this would have been an A or an S tier weapon, but it just isn't anymore. Is it still fun? Yes. Can you bounce projectiles off of walls and over things? Absolutely you can. Is it really fun to use? Sure it is. Does the overall damage and burst damage give you enough to really justify A or S tier? It doesn't. Is it okay? Absolutely is. Is it usable? Sure. Next up in the B rating is the Hammerfall. Every 100 meters you drive, when shooting, are guaranteed to disable the enemy's weapon rotation for half a second. There's really not a lot to say about this. It's just a very vanilla shotgun. Doesn't do a lot that other shotguns can't do as good, really. It's just not a lot to say. Is it bad? No. Is it great? No. Is it okay? Yes. Now, the Imp is interesting in that its line of rapid-fire machine guns boost damage if you use other rapid-fire machine guns, like more Imps. What are you going to use with an Imp? Another Imp. It's got a ridiculously high fire rate, but very little durability for a big hitbox. Find it getting stripped off pretty quickly. It's okay. The Draco can be really effective, but you want to pair it with the Blight Cabin so you get that fire damage bonus. Does a little melee. Think of a Goblin, but with fire. It's a decent all-around fire weapon. Not amazing. On to A tier weapons. We're getting to the best of the best. Here we go. Our first A tier weapon is the Reaper, and it used to be one of my favorite weapons in the game back before I even had my promo account. It's gone through a lot of changes. Used to actually have to have cooling to use it. They removed that. One of the limitations of this weapon that dropped down to A tier was the fact that it does have to use ammo. They changed this perk to, hey, it just doesn't overheat. It used to have every few shells had armor penetration, but they've gone ahead and tweaked it. You need to build something that has a lot of durability if you're going to use this, because you're going to have to sit there and hold left click. You're also going to want to really box these up and armor them, which is doable. And they still have a durability of 520. A couple of Reapers can really spew some damage on your opponents. Now, the Mammoth is a good cannon, but you've really got to master the projectile drop. One of the things that makes it so good is the durability. 1,284 points of durability and stupid high damage. If you land your shots, you get a weapon damage bonus, which is really nice. So it's good for getting up close and going poonk, poonk right into your enemy's face. A solid choice. Also 360 degrees of turning. Next up, we got the Spark 3. You're going to see this most commonly paired with a Harvester and a Doggo build. Use it to slow down your enemy so you can either face hug them with melee or fire. Can't go wrong with this thing. It gets the job done, but it almost always works as a secondary or supplementary weapon rather than as a main weapon. I've used 4 of these on their own. You can do it. It's just not very effective unless you're trying to just drive around and blow up drones. Next up, the Aspect Machine Gun. It's just a really good all-rounder machine gun. And the higher the weapon's temp, the higher its damage. If you can keep this thing really hot, you can get a huge damage bonus of 60%. A solid choice for legendary weapons. Now, the Harvester has been in solid top tier for a long time, and it remains in the A category. It is going to be hands down your best melee weapon in the game. It's big, it's got a big bite, and the damage makes it workable. You can pair it with other stuff like a Spark like we talked about. You can also pair it with fire. It really is a versatile, big old melee weapon. Next up, coming at the A tier, the Scorpion, which really was considered the meta of all metas for a long time, and it still is, and you'll see it in Clan Wars a lot. I spent a lot of time talking to Scorp users on the Discord. We debated. It's an A+ weapon. It's not quite S tier, but dang is it A+. You've really got to be able to aim. But if you can penetrate and hit someone in their gas tank or their fuel gen, you can pop a frame or pop a build from across the map. And it has that 2 meters of armor penetration, which are just amazing for deframing targets. Super fun to use, super hard to use. But a really, really cool weapon. Definitely A+ tier. Next weapon coming in at the A tier, we got the Mastodon. It's got a dual shot mode, and the first shot deals less damage but heats parts. But the charge mechanic or the tap firing mechanism makes it a little bit trickier to use. But it has the most durability of any weapon in the game at 1,505 points. This thing is an absolute beast of a cannon, and the burst damage on it is going to be really solid. Our last A tier weapon is the Firebug. You're definitely going to want to pair this with the Blight or something that's really going to boost the damage. Heats up parts and they receive 100% more damage. Probably your strongest fire weapon out there, but not a lot in the way of durability. You can lose these a lot if you don't armor them really, really carefully and box them up. On to the best weapons in Crossout, S tier, legendary, and relics. The Retcher has always been a good weapon. It remains so. The higher the damage for, let's see, the further the target, the higher the damage. If you're using these at long range as area denial or shooting over hills, that's going to boost their damage. They are great for area denial, but they're also good at mid-range for just grenading the heck out of your opponent, and they're ridiculously fun to use. Who doesn't want a quad-barreled rocket launcher? I love that they put a scope on it, like anyone would use a scope with this thing. But there you go. On to the next one. The Arbiter is a really solid machine gun. It's a minigun, and the longer the weapon fires, the higher the damage. After 7 seconds, it gets a damage boost of up to 150%. It's a little smaller than the Reaper, a little less durability, a little less energy, but solid minigun package all around. Here we go, guys. The Helios, probably the best energy weapon in the game. If all the projectiles hit the target, it does extra damage directly to the enemy vehicle's cabin. Fire rate is good. Damage output's good. No projectile drop on this thing. Better durability than some. It's an absolute beast of a weapon and fun to use. You're going to want to be on something quick, though. Oh, hello, old friend. Porcupine. My favorite weapon in the game. There's nothing not to love. Shoots giant barrels of flaming, explodey goodness. And even after nerfs, this thing's amazing. Still only takes 3 points of energy and has some of the highest damage in the game. And these things bounce around and then blow up and people drive into the fire. They cause mayhem and havoc, and the physics of launching the barrels are just a joy to find different ways to make porcupolts and build them. If I could get porcupine codes from Targem, I would gift all of you guys one porcupine so you could try it out. They're so fun. On to the next one. Alright guys, let's be honest. The Typhoon's probably one of the best cannons in the game. Hitting enemy reduces their reload speed and weapon cooling. It's got stupid damage, good accuracy, probably the most accurate cannon in the game. You're not going to go wrong by using this. 2 of them. Hit it. Be on something that can strafe, whether it's legs or hover. It's a solid all-around cannon. It replaces Tsunami. It's just better in all regards. Go with the Typhoon, or as it's called, the Foon. Here we have the Punisher based off an anti-aircraft gun. If you land 40 shots, it increases the damage. This thing puts out a high rate of speed. It's easy to use. It's a machine gun, but it has a decent amount of durability for a machine gun. Looks cool, easy to use, really does high DPS. You're not going to go wrong with this thing. There's a reason these are Relic weapons. You'll notice more than half of the Relic weapons were in S tier, the other half A tier. There is not a bad Relic weapon. Not much to say about the Breaker. After they fix some of the issues, it basically makes it the best shotgun in the game. If it receives damage, it becomes invincible for a second. So it's kind of a funny, goofy perk right there. It's a quad-barreled shotgun. What's not to love? And lastly, the Flash 1, not much to say about it except that it's an upgraded version of the Spark. Really good supplementary weapon. When dealing damage, though, it slows the reload speed of enemy guns by 6% and reduces the cabin power. It slows down the enemy. It's going to pair great with anything else. Boom. There's the list. I'm putting it above my head right now. I'm going to put the link in the description. You can check it out. Let me know what you guys think about these rankings down in the comments. And please like and subscribe. We're going to do movement. Sorry, Younger G slamming doors. He knows not to slam the studio door. Like and subscribe. We're going to do movement tier next. All right, guys. Be good. Stay safe. Mr. G out.